So welcome to the show, Eric.
Welcome. Thank you, Brian. Always a pleasure to see you, my friend.
Great. Well, it's an honor being on your podcast, Entrepreneur Circle, the other week. So I figured it'd be great to return the favor and have you on here, chat a little bit.
I'm getting a lot of Brian in a short amount of time, which is great.
Yep. Hey, well, it wouldn't be business with beers if I didn't ask you that me and you are at a bar, and it can be late. It can be 5 o'clock. It doesn't have to be 11. And having a drink. What are we drinking?
Lately, I've been all about less the beers because of the calories and the bloatedness that I feel, and more about gin and tonic. Just keeping it simple. Just a little twist of lime. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, a nice hot day like today. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Cool. So if you could share your story, who you are, kind of what you do. I know you do a lot of things, so maybe kind of a broad interview and then we'll dive into it.
Yeah. I, was in the rat race for 20 plus years, bro, corporate America, and didn't know any better. Just water cooler conversations and rumors and toxic environments. I had a lot of fun, learned a ton. And then I realized after the second time I was being laid off that I was done with this sort of lifestyle. I hit a glass ceiling in the creative industry. I reached the top of my game within that space in terms of like positions. I wasn't going to be made partner to a Fortune 100 company. So it was up to me to decide what was next. So real estate investing became the next path. I started to understand what financial freedom and legacy wealth meant. That meant nothing to me for the majority of my life until I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it changed everything, bro. And I got permission from the CEO of my house, my wife, Jane. And she said, do your thing, man. I trust you. And we got enough savings for us to test drive this. So I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. So started investing in multifamilies, eventually the second oldest winery in the nation, and then found a bunch of partners and friends that have become like brothers to me. And they helped support me in everything that I was doing outside of real estate, building a media agency called OnAir Brands, and now this leading the podcast industry in terms of events and networking and recording shows in one day through PodMax. That's really where a lot of my focus is every day recently.
Okay. How long ago did you leave that W-2 job?
2017. So it's been 4 years now.
All right. So it wasn't too long ago.
Yeah, no, not at all.
And then timeline wise, when did you launch the media OnAir Brands?
2018.
Okay. So about a year, you kind of doing some real estate, figuring it all out.
Yeah, I did that for a year. Continuing to do it, but like it was all I did, education, and networking, and then acquiring my first multifamily in year one gave me the confidence and the network to start building other things. Okay.
And how much real estate do you own now? Is that kind of a focus, or is it more kind of the podcasting world?
Really my focus is all podcast and media right now. Okay. So I sort of put that on pause. I mean, I participate in things from a passive level, in syndications and co-sponsorships to bigger projects that I am not running. We only have so much time throughout the day, right, Brian? So I find experts that are 1,000 million times better than I am in those things.
Yep. Yeah, I'm doing something similar now. You focus on the active business, right? And then kind of the money that you want to invest, go passively and just kind of write the check and let them run it. And
exactly.
Just got to find the good people. That's the challenge or the opportunity too.
Yeah, exactly.
So cool. So let's talk about OnAir Brands first. Like what's kind of the mission? What's the focus? Like what do you guys do there?
So it originally started as like a traditional a media agency, creative agency, where we did logos and branding and marketing. That was my wheelhouse, in corporate. So I leaned into that. As I started to see social media and understand it, for myself, I started to give it to others, which evolved into creating and producing podcasts for myself first and then for others. Now that's what it really focuses on. It's just a machine. We have, over a dozen podcasts that we produce on a weekly basis, plus over 50, close to 60 within our podcast network. Okay. So it's grown, and it's just a well-oiled machine. It's not something that I focus on every single day to grow it. It's just generating income and revenue and, building on its own slowly. But my focus will be soon, now that I have an insanely voracious and passionate operator, integrator. She's going to help me and focus on building that part of the business once PodMax gets well oiled like that one is.
Okay. So that was the original one. And then the spinoff or next is PodMax. So let's go into that. So
yeah,
what is PodMax?
So PodMax is, I would say, modestly, the leading podcasting event, one-day event that records podcasts, provides pre-training, like speaker training before the event, and then mastermind level networking throughout the day. It's 9 to 5, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard. We do it about every 6 weeks. And then we have world-class keynote speakers, take the stage, like David Meltzer somewhat recently, Steve Sims, and, Hal Elrod, and, the whole C-suite from Vayner, still working on Gary to get him on the stage. But they come and they bring it and they educate and offer value to the entire community. And that's really what it's become. It's become a really passionate, loving, vulnerable community where people come in initially, I'm going to be on a podcast, cool. But then they realize, wow, I'm finding partners, clients, relationships, friends, and they keep coming back, Brian. So it's wonderful. I didn't realize 2020 was going to build this really sort of heart-centered community.
Okay. So how many people typically did you have it in one of these events?
Well, when we were doing it live, we would probably have anywhere between 30 or 40.
Okay.
Live. And what was cool about
live meant they come to Trenton, right?
Yeah,
where your studio is. So wherever
exactly.
they're driving a couple hours maybe or
flying. Yeah.
Or
people
flying.
were flying in from Colorado. People were flying in from LA. It was pretty wild.
Okay. To do this one day, they record a bunch of, they do a couple, right? A couple recordings as guests.
When we were live, they did 6 recordings in one day. And then I would bring in like catering and music and entertainment and all this stuff. It was great. We're going to get back to that soon. But then when it went virtual, we kept it full day, but we could only do 3 recordings in one day. But the operational costs really just more than cut in half, which was great because I didn't need a staff of 12 people running around and operating the event. So yeah, it's exciting how it sort of evolved into a virtual event, which we're going to keep, and then do live events once we find the right timing for it.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. So it's all Zoom now, right? So they break out into separate whatever Zoom recordings. Is that kind of how it works?
Exactly.
And then
exactly. So that's our sort of virtual little studios. When we were live, we had multiple rooms that we outfitted with podcast equipment and an audio technician. Now it's become an easier lift because it's just breakout rooms. You don't need anyone in there other than the host and the guest. And it runs pretty smoothly. So, and rather than having over a dozen people running around, we have at the core 5 of us operating the event, 2 of which, we're not really doing much other than emceeing the day and being the hosts. But yeah, so there's like maybe 2 people that are really operating everything behind the scenes.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. It's a cool business model.
Yeah.
And from your standpoint, and then for the guests, what are the benefits to the guests? Obviously, you said there's the networking component, right? So they get to meet other people, they get to keynote speak. What are the other benefits of why a guest would want to be on this?
So from the surface level, we get people very interested in getting on podcasts, right? They have a story to tell, they have a business they want to promote, so they come in thinking of it as a marketing arm, spoke in the wheel of marketing. Well, it becomes more than that, and it becomes wildfire for them because they're speaking on shows that have their own community. So, let's take you, for example, you meet someone at our event. It's someone that you normally probably would not have reached out to, or they would have found you. And then we make the connection. Now they have access to offer value and share their story and what they do to a community they would not have normally had access to. So then they do that multiple times, right, throughout the course of the day. Because normally you know how it is now that you're a podcaster. We're reaching out to people that we kind of know, at arm's length. Yep. And then at some point you exhaust that and you have to go to the outer rim. But now when you go to a podcast event like ours at PodMax, you're reaching and meeting people that you wouldn't have met before through us. And it's just a wonderful way to find people outside of your circle and then to continue expanding that and helping more people. Yeah.
Okay. So what's your business plan to grow this thing even bigger? Is it more frequent events? Is it bigger events? Is it like, what's the big vision of this thing look like?
Yeah. So the big vision, and I'll go, micro to macro. So we now that we've done 13, 14 events, some of which were live, 3 of those were live. We have built a community of hundreds of people that just are devoted and brand loyalists and champions. And they have, we've found clusters and pockets of them within cities like Jacksonville, Florida, Dallas, Texas, Austin, Las Vegas. So what I want to do is, now that everything is opened up and people are, more fearless, which is fantastic, they want to have live meetups. So I did sort of an offshoot in Jacksonville, Florida. I traveled down there. There was a half a dozen of us that met. They loved it. And they said, hey, can we do this more? I said, well, can you lead the charge for a PodMax meetup? And they, well, we would love to. So I said, I'm going to create, sort of the spread, the blueprint of what it looks like, the course of the evening, I'm guessing it'll be, and all these podcasters and business owners could come together and sort of connect and share ideas. So I want to start to do that in all these major cities, start to get a groundswell, Brian, where now the community is growing from the ground level. And then when they come to the virtual events, it gets bigger and this words keep spreading, which all will lead to what I call affectionately and jokingly, but hopefully it comes to fruition, is PodMax Palooza, where we have a massive conference. Of thousands of people that have now, met in their little pockets and then virtually, and now come together in a big event. So that's where it's all sort of leading. Okay.
Yeah, that's exciting. It's an exciting vision. So you go to a meetup. What's in Jacksonville, your vision at least of this thing? What are the topics? Like what are people what are these business owners talking about? Is it did they each bring a challenge or like a best practice, or is it like?
Yeah, I don't know yet. I know that you and I, we go to meetups, right? Real estate meetups. So I love the meetups, and I host our own meetups in Princeton, New Jersey, where we get people on the stage, and that's kind of what PodMax does. We want people to get out of their comfort zone, right? They come, they don't know what to expect. Some of them are very introverted, which is fine, but we have everyone take the mic, stand up, tell us why you're here. What are you hoping to gain or learn today? And then everyone gets to share their story. And then, hopefully someone connects, resonates with what they said within their 60-second, 2-minute thing. And then now the networking event after that, is more fluid and easier. So then that's what I'm hoping to do. That's kind of what we do in the real estate meetups. But
so you break the ice.
Take elements of
right?
Break
everyone,
the ice. Exactly.
Everyone kind of shares their story. You find a common connection with somebody. So that's like kind of the bar talk, right? They come, they talk to you, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And what about the structure of a meeting? Is it kind of trying to bring the keynote speakers in to talk on a certain subject, or someone in the group who
I'm not sure yet. I mean, because think about this, Brian. There's so many irons in the fire. This is another business model. Like, I have the framework for it.
Yeah.
I have a wonderful person on my, in my corner. Her name's Liz Faircloth. She runs these real estate invest her meetings, and she's gone nationwide, tens of thousands of people. So she's literally given me the playbook on how to build this when I'm ready. I have it. I have it all, and we've spoken for hours about it. But it's not something that I'm ready to pull the trigger on yet, but when I am, we have it, and it's going to be amazing. But Brian, I will tell you this: what I want to do is some unique things. One of which is record a podcast during the meetup. No one's doing that. I used to do that in my real estate meetings when before everything shut down. I would always go live on Facebook and then repurpose the content to promote the event. So we'll do some really cool things. That's one of the things I'm thinking about. Like every meetup has a podcast.
Cool. Yeah, it's exciting. So what does your team look like? I guess probably in person, some virtual. Like, you have all these different kind of businesses and goals. What's the team? What's the structure?
So OnAir Brands kind of birthed PodMax, right? It was like an experiment. Let's see what happens. It's an event, and it worked. So I had to separate the two businesses, but still use the same team for both. So we're talking business here, right? Because this is business with beers. I plan to create a separate entity called the OnAir Brands Shared Services, so that we don't have two accountants, we don't have two operators, we don't have two of everything. It's one thing in one place that shares amongst all the businesses that have created. So that's one thing that I'm hoping will make things more efficient. So that's all sort of falling in place now. My new business partner, Meredith, who is the director of operations, is the director of operations for OnAir Brands and PodMax. So, we're systematically approaching everything, taking care of PodMax and what it needs, and watering and pouring love into that. And then now we're planning on going over to OnAir Brands and focusing on growing that business as well. And then there's other things in the pipeline that we want to grow, other businesses. So it's really exciting to have the right team, the right people on the right bus, because then you could do more things. But that's sort of the top level.
Okay. Yeah. And virtual assistants, do you use any virtuals at all in person?
Yeah, we have a virtual team of designers, project managers, writers. Absolutely. The majority of which are in the Philippines, but we had some in Canada. We focus mostly in the Philippines. But yeah, it's great having them on the team. They're so good.
Yep. Yeah, we have 5 or 6 or so that work for us, and it's you can do amazing work, and it's scalable, right? You exactly. Get busy, right? You bring on somebody else, and you don't need any more physical space, and there's some great benefits there. So cool. So what's one of the biggest challenges that you've faced throughout your career? As a business owner, or even in your W-2, but maybe more like your big business.
Mindset, bro. That was the biggest hurdle for me. Reprogramming, getting out of the matrix and realizing that everything was not real. And, grasping the concept of investing and abundance and leading with value. I know these are all sort of like catchy terms and phrases, but it's real. Like, manifestation. I'm a firm believer of like, I don't necessarily think of life in a linear fashion anymore, because my ideas as a creative are so abstract. I may be talking about something today, and then the pieces start falling into place down the line. I'm like, oh crap, that was a conversation I was having with Brian, and now it's coming to fruition. This happens every day, every minute as I talk to people, sort of like setting up the pieces before we need it, so that when the time comes and the timing's right and the universe says, okay, it's all ready and aligned, it falls into place. I'm like, wow, this is great.
So what was your mindset before? What was the belief that you had in terms of how things worked versus what'd you learn?
Yeah, it was all about me. It was all about me. What's in it for me? How can I maximize this for myself? Focusing less on others. I couldn't care less. I was very empathetic as a child and growing up, in a somewhat, a relatively dysfunctional family where I had to play the peacekeeper. So that I carried that skill set into life, in work. Whenever there was like bickering amongst coworkers, I would always like, hey, look at it from this side. And have you thought about this? This is what's going on in their family. So I was always that peacekeeper, and people always called me the glue, which I've continued to do here. But I had a lot of distractions, a lot of toxicity, a lot of sort of employee mindset type of things, limiting beliefs that I had to get over and figure out. And that's been the biggest hurdle. And it's still a practice every day. I'm not perfect, and I always make mistakes, but everyday practice of meditation and affirmations and gratitude and exercise has just made a world of difference, so that when things get thrown at me, I'm not putting my fist through walls. I'm not screaming at my kids. I'm not doing the things that I used to do when I was what my wife calls Erik 1.0. So, now she's calling me Erik 3.0, which was like, wow, thank you. I've graduated. I did hit 2.0, but I didn't just leapfrog.
You jumped right past it.
Yeah, but that's the wonderful thing that,
so that sounds like Morning Miracle. Is that kind of what you follow? Yeah. How our Reds practice there?
Yeah. That, I modified it to fit me. But yeah, that's a good framework for making changes. Absolutely.
Yep. That was one of my questions is, what are some of your daily habits that you attribute to your success? So meditation, you said that. affirmations. Can you give us some examples of maybe what are some of the affirmations that you use or are prominent?
Yeah. Gratitude is a big one. Being grateful for everything in my life. Then I get sort of specific about it. And then, at times, I start to appreciate and continue to adopt an abundance mindset.
What does that mean for people that don't know the abundance mindset?
Absolutely.
What does that mean?
So the best explanation or metaphor I can give is, the world is an abundant world. Life, plants, trees, animals, they're not thinking in limiting terms, right? They're growing, they're expanding constantly. Everything around the world that you see in the universe is constantly expanding and growing. So if you think sort of micro to macro, it all is abundant, everything that we live in. So I know it's going to get a little sort of feely here, but we are part of that. We as humans are inherently part of this nature and part of this abundance and growth and expansion without limiting ourselves. That is abundance. And if we just lean into what we are naturally about, because we're one with nature and life and the world and the universe. So therefore, if we lean into it and accept it as part of us and our DNA, that's abundance to me. Like talking to you, talking to friends, talking to people that we had at this conference over the weekend. That is something when you start to put the vibration out there, people start to understand, wow, I want to be around him or her. They are all about abundance and helping and offering value with no expectation of return. That's to me abundance.
Yeah, one of the best metaphors I heard is, the world will give you, anything you ask for, right? And that if you think of the world as like an ocean, right? And some people go into the ocean and they have a teaspoon and they get the water, right? And that's what they bring out, the teaspoon, because that's all they're asking for. Well, someone else may go with a 5-gallon bucket, right? And then someone else may go with a 55-gallon bucket, right? And so the people who are going into the ocean and asking for more of whatever it is in life are then getting more because, right, the ocean is abundance. There's as much out there as that person is willing and able to, want to bring back. So absolutely. Love that. But that's a and kind of the concept that relates to kind of thinking big, right? You have these big ideas, and if you think the world's small and it's not possible, it's hard to have. You won't have those big ideas, right? You think it's impossible. Yeah. You think it's abundant, and that anything out there is possible, right? You can dream bigger, think bigger, start putting the actions into place in order to achieve, whatever you're looking to do. Because otherwise it's limiting, like you said, self-limiting beliefs of what's possible. I think that's the biggest learning for a lot of people. Especially coming from, kind of probably a corporate world where you have to kind of follow these rules and, you kind of have to live in this box and live in someone else's world versus, being on your own and anything's possible. So, yeah, absolutely. Cool. So gratitude, abundance, any others that you kind of like primary focus of yours? Yeah. I mean, mostly that. I mean, I do some silent meditation. I also do yoga. A lot of that is very helpful. I used to I was like a gym rat. I'd love to go to the gym every day or every other day and just like build my muscles. It's amazing that yoga, if done as a daily practice, I think I'm more fit than I ever was, when I used to just go to the gym and isolate muscles. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still go, but just not as often. But definitely like sort of intermittent fasting has changed, my mindset in terms of like nutrition and getting past the hangries. I used to get so hangry, Brian. So how's that work? So I get hangry and I've heard intermittent fasting. Can you give me kind of explanation of how it works? All my life, I labeled myself as somebody who would get, very, very upset and angry if I don't eat when I need to eat. And all my friends, all my family, like, get Erik some food. He's coming. He's getting upset. That sounds like me. Which changed when I adopted intermittent fasting, which I've been doing for, I think, about 2 or 3 years now.
It's a lifestyle. It's not a diet. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going to use it as a diet. And I'm like, no, it's a mindset. It's a lifestyle change, and it becomes part of you if it fits, right? It's not for everyone. It really fit for me. So just so people know, I mean, and they're probably tired of hearing it. So for those of you who are into intermittent fasting or it didn't work for you, you could sort of like drift off. But for me, dinner's around 6 to 7 o'clock at night. I don't eat after that. That right there created discipline for me, because I used to, Brian, like continue eating snacking until I go to bed. So cookies, maybe if I go to bed at midnight or 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, I'm eating potato chips, I'm eating popcorn, I'm eating whatever's in the cupboard. So when I got into the mental space and discipline that this is my cutoff, dinner's my last meal, I'm done. No matter how hungry or whatever I'm craving, I don't eat it. So that was great. And then when I wake up in the morning, this was the biggest part, Brian, when people are like, man, how are you going to do intermittent fasting? You love breakfast. That's your favorite meal. And I was like, yeah, I'll never do that. How can I do that? I'm not going to skip breakfast. Well, I figured out I don't have to skip breakfast. If I'm breaking my break fast, then I could eat whatever I want, eggs and oatmeal or whatever at 2 o'clock. It's usually typically when I eat, or maybe 1 o'clock. So that's people. And also I didn't understand the concept of while you sleep, you're fasting, right? So a lot of the time during that 8 hours is fasting, of the 14 or 16 hours of fast.
Yeah. So what's the hour? You need 14 to 16 hours?
I'd say about 14 to 16 is my average of fasting. Yeah.
Okay. So if you go to bed at 6, that's like 8 a.m. kind of, or you eat dinner at 6, you have till about 8 a.m. Or so to 10 a.m. before you should have another.
Then I don't eat. The only thing I do is I'll have lemon water with pink Himalayan sea salt and apple cider vinegar. So that's my sort of morning booster to hydrate. And then I'll drink black coffee. And that's it until I eat my first meal around probably 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock sometimes.
Oh, wow. So you go to that. I mean, that's a good amount of hours. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, your body goes into ketosis, not where that, but anyway, quickly what happens is when your body goes into ketosis, it's burning fat for fuel. It's not burning the calories that you've ingested throughout the morning and the day. And so that's where my body has adapted and changed and morphed into the best physical shape that I've been in my entire life. And consistent with my weight, consistent with my energy levels. It's very predictable versus before when I would eat, Brian, and break my fast or whatever it was and eat garbage, I would fall asleep through the course of the day. I can't concentrate. What's funny, Brian, is I actually don't look forward to breaking my fast because then my brain shuts off after I eat, like, cause it's concentrating on digesting. So then I love the morning to the time I eat, because now I'm so hyper focused. That's when I get the most stuff done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Especially as a business owner, especially having those blocks of time, right, that you kind of dedicate to doing something specific, time chunking or whatever you want to call it. Do you practice any of that? Is that kind of what your mornings are? Have kind of dedicated, super focused? Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I used to have, and I still kind of do, a to-do list, but then I realized a to-do list is just a parking lot for things that will never occur, things that you'll never get done, right? It just keeps growing. And then I literally was going through it this morning, Brian, and there was stuff from 2019. I was like, I just deleted everything. I was like, wow, okay, I guess I didn't need to do that. And then I forgot who told me, but for years now, I've been practicing chunking my time in my calendar. So if you look at my calendar from Monday to Friday, Monday mornings is dedicated to creative solutions and brainstorming. Just like I just leave myself open from 7 a.m. to like 9 a.m. creative. And then like throughout the week, there's others, like on Tuesday mornings, I believe I chunk out administrative tasks and emails. So then I focus like catching up for those type of tasks. And then, and so on. And like Thursday mornings, I put a big chunk in for financial reviews and tasks, so all the stuff that I have to do, the stuff that I don't like to do that you're probably a whiz at. But yeah, that I chunk out my time.
You have dedicated days based on the subject. So creative, admin, financial.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. So people see it. I give access to my calendar to all the key players on my team, and they know, don't bother Erik. He's in creative mode, or he's blocked out for this mode. And they ask if they can, like, hey, I need to set up a meeting. It looks like you have a creative block or you have something else here. Is it okay? And I'm like, yeah, because they have to respect your time blocks and chunks and what you're focusing on.
Otherwise they're irrelevant. Otherwise.
Yeah, because before it was all, and this was corporate life too. Like, it was just constant reactions to everything around you, like, and at the end of the day, you didn't feel like you accomplished anything. It would get so frustrating. And then that's one day, then it's a week, and then it's a month, and that's your life, just reacting to things and, feeling like you're not productive or accomplishing anything in your life, or, especially goals.
Yep. Yeah. So you're stuck in that whirlwind or that tidal wave, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
You can't get out. So you have these goals, you set these goals, and then do you then plan out each week or each month, like proactively, what you're looking to accomplish in those time blocks? How does your goal setting then integrate into your calendar?
Yeah. So there isn't a collective sort of like macro monthly sort of goal set, but I have personal goals, of which, I check in on a regular, but no specific timeline. And then we're about to adopt and implement the EOS system into our business, and the Gino Wickman sort of tools. And that's going to hold us as a business accountable, from the leadership positions, and making sure that we hit our 90-day goals and our level 10 and all this really cool stuff that, I've sort of scratched the surface. That's not my skill set. We have, Meredith that's going to do all that. So it's going to be pretty cool.
Great. Yeah. We've been on traction for a little while now, and a couple of years. And I wouldn't say we're 100%, but we got a lot of it down, especially I think defining roles, who's responsible for what, the level 10 meetings, we have them literally every single Monday morning for years now. And, before that it was sporadic. And it's a great process for anybody. I know we've talked about it a little bit here before, but traction, EOS, entrepreneur operating system, like the software for your business kind of thing is the concept in terms of how you operate. So that's great. Cool. So what's next? We talked about a lot of stuff. What's like when the next couple months, what's coming out of Erik?
The next couple months personally, and then I would say the next couple months to the end of the year, leading into the next year is I'm really doubling down on, let me just share my mantra here, and then people will understand where it's coming from. But my mantra, which has now become the company PodMax's sort of mission as well, is to make the world a better place, one mic at a time. And originally when I said that, Brian, I thought of this, your mic, my mic, right? Mm-hmm. These are two mics. We're doing this one mic at a time, and then we're sharing our story and sharing with your community. So then I know I do more of that through the event, right? Because now multiply the microphones in the room.
Leverage right? there. Yep.
And then it starts to expand, it starts to grow. I do this outside of the event, individual, as a guest, as a host. So I continue to do this, make impact one mic at a time, one conversation at a time. And then it hit me, Brian. I'm being asked to MC events. I'm being asked to keynote events. Now that everything's opening up, I'm hitting the stage, and I'm also introducing keynotes to other events. So I'm starting to realize, oh my goodness, I'm impacting and changing the world one mic at a time, not just with my mic, but with other people on stage, because of the connections and the networking and the introductions. But then also when I hit the stage, for example, this past weekend, I was emceeing a 3-day or 2.5 day event, and there were about 300 or 400 people there. So one mic speaking to 400 people, like, that's impactful. That's something that I want to continue doing. And that's my goal, from here on out, to continue expanding on that sort of mission.
So you getting on stage more, sharing your ideas, your message, inspiring the 300, 400, 500 or thousands, whatever in there, to each take hopefully a piece of that and impact, their lives and other people around them.
Yeah. I have to share something that's sort of happening as a result of that is, you could sort of get into this reality distortion bubble, where, throughout the event and the weekend, I'm walking in there and people know my name just because I'm on the stage. So it could play to your ego. Our naturally our egos are going to feed into that and go, oh, hey, I'm the shit, I'm the, like, and it starts to happen. So I had to really ground myself this morning, especially because I stayed an extra day with my family to relax and sort of decompress. And I had to do humility sort of mindset and meditation to sort of like come back down, because it's just not normal to be in an environment like that. So I have to sort of be aware of what can happen. There's good and there's bad of it, and always staying humble and always staying, and just having humility in life is so beneficial. And we have to kind of just stay on that course, or else it can get to you.
Yeah, that's a great message. What is a Erik Cabral keynote speak look like? Like, I know it varies, but like what this week,
Yeah.
Can you give us the highlights? Like, you're up there. What's the big message? What are the couple of takeaways?
Yeah, a lot of it's everything I said here on the show, staying humble, helping others, leading with value. One message that I said while I was on stage was, you're here at a big event. There's a lot of people. It can get intimidating. Don't put a lot of pressure on yourself, but think of it as like, find one person that you can help today. Like, what are you great at? And maybe someone is going to recognize that. Like, do you have time or do you have money? Which one do you have that another person may need? Just find that one person. And, I'm hoping that, that resonated with people or someone in the audience where they're like, okay, that was the first thing in the morning. I said, you got the whole day. It's the last day of the event. Go out there and find that person that you can help. So yeah, those are sort of the things that I'm sort of moving towards, is like,
okay. So kind of core values, kind of as a person, kind of how you operate, or how a good model for maybe someone else to follow and to open up into some of these ideas that, maybe they're not used to hearing.
Yeah, exactly. Because, it's a real estate event. People are like, money. Where can I find the money? Where's the money? But I sort of moved away from that, and I kind of wanted to share through my experience that when I focused on that, it's sort of like you repel what you're focusing too hard. Like you're asking. It's
like a pendulum, right? You're pushing it too far in the one direction.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So it's good. And I just love those type of events, any events, but especially real estate investing events,
especially as a business owner too. A lot of the things that you talked about today, in the morning process with the meditation and the yoga and the affirmations, right? All that kind of leads into getting your mind right. So then when you sit down, you spend your time chunks instead of in this whirlwind, right? You're following this model of effective time management. Then you can think right? And you're eating right too. So like sometimes if you're only focused on the business, making money, the connections, but you're not doing all this other stuff to develop yourself personally, right? You may not have these creative ideas. You may not see what you should be seeing or could be seeing. And then, don't know how to take an opportunity of it because maybe you don't have the right time. You're too busy with all these to-do list items that don't even matter. So I think that's a great part of your message just in general, is like, there's like an operating system, like we talked about EOS, but it's of your life and as a person, which you kind of have down as a good role model for other people. So
appreciate that. We have to also be conscious of like burnout and doing a lot. Like a lot of people are addicted to that work ethic, of burning the candle at both ends and just like, I'm killing it, I'm crushing it, I'm closing deals, I'm making money. That's all great. But at some point you have to slow down and recognize, and to quote Ferris Bueller, life moves, fast. And if you don't stop and look around once in a while, you may miss it. And our kids are great examples of that. You can be so busy in your business, look around and see your kids. I'm like, holy crap, it looks like my daughter grew an inch, because I'm not paying attention. And that was one thing that I thought, like, I need to change because it was happening to me. And also I'm not being my best, in terms of being a husband and a father. So I had to really recognize and pull back, still crushing and operating, at times, but informing my wife and my family, hey, June's going to be very busy, so I'm going to be in and out. But then taking the time, just like a computer, when you hear the fan is like revving because you have all this stuff happening, all these windows, all these applications, all this work that it's doing at the same time. It's telling you I'm overheating. Sometimes you got to shut that thing down, right? Let it reset. Same thing with our bodies. We have to reset and take a moment to just, breathe.
Cool. Yeah. Well, that's a great message there. Any books you're reading now that you'd recommend?
Dude,
people check out?
I am loving Blinkist. So it's funny because when I got into Audible and listening to books, I'm like, yeah, I read blah, blah, at 1.5 speed. But Blinkist is great because I'm able to sort of absorb content, through wonderful books that I want to read, but don't have the 8 hours to listen to the audio. What is Blinkist
for those who don't know?
It's an app that basically wraps up, a book
like Cliff Notes
minutes. Yeah, but they do such a great job of summarizing it in a way that it's digestible. So I listened to this morning Jocko Willink's leadership. What the heck was it called? Let me look for it. It's great. Leadership strategy and tactics is the field manual for leadership strategy and tactics by Jocko Willink. And it's great because that's really sort of where I want my mindset each and every day now, as the companies are growing, to be the best leader that I could possibly be for them.
Do you ever so it's like a 15-minute summary of a book?
Yeah.
Something that range. And do you ever feel that you got to go into listen to the whole book to get more? Or do you think that you're getting enough content from it that you're good?
It's serving the purpose for me in terms of setting my day, and planting the seeds for my day, by listening to certain books that are relevant to what's going on in my life at that time. Okay. So this morning, because we had our team at this event, certain things happened and certain feedback that I want to give them, but I want to do it in a way that's productive. And this book just happened to pop up, and I'm like, what am I going to listen to this morning? So do the gratitude affirmations, meditation in the morning, and then I have to read something, which sometimes I'll pick up a book, like a physical book, or sometimes I'll do the Blink.
Okay.
It's
cool.
It's a great app
to check that out. And cool. So how can listeners connect, find out more about Erik Cabral, PodMax, OnAir Brands?
I would love to give something to your audience. I've been doing this lately on shows because I think people who want a personal brand, people don't know how to develop one or get it started. First you have to find what your message is, be clear on your message and how you want to tell that story. And this tool here at podmax.co/masterclass is something that we developed years ago, where it's basically the blueprint of how I created my personal brand and my story. So just wanted to give it to your audience so that maybe.
Okay. So podmax.co/masterclass.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We'll check out that, and I'm sure that has all the links to get in contact with you from it. So
yeah. I mean, our email's there, our information's there. If they want to reach out to me directly, I can give my email, but I'm not as responsive as I'd like to be. But Erik, ERIK at onairbrands.com is a great way to get a hold of me, but I'll get to it as soon as I can. Fantastic.
All right, cool, Erik. Well, thanks for coming on and sharing your story and kind of all about your life here. And I think, you obviously delivered a ton of value as always. So
I appreciate you, Brian. Thanks for having me.
All right. Have a good one.